the tides in the Ganges. Sri Ramakrishna walked toward the Panchavati with M. and a few other devotees. It was midday and time for the flood tide in the Ganges. They waited in the Panchavati to see the bore of the tide. Master, to the devotees, the ebb tide and flood tide are indeed amazing. But notice one thing. Near the sea you see ebb tide and flood tide in a river. But far away from the sea the river flows in one direction only. What does this mean? Try to apply its significance to your spiritual life. Those who live very near God feel within them the currents of bhakti, bhava, and the like. In the case of a few, the Isvarakotis. For instance, one sees even Mahabhava and Prema. 2m. What is the explanation of the ebb tide and flood tide? M. According to Western astronomy, they are due to the attraction of the sun and the moon. In order to explain it, M. drew figures on the earth and began to show the master the movement of the earth, the sun, and the moon. The master looked at the figures for a minute and said, "Stop, please. It gives me a headache." Presently the tide came up the Ganges. They heard the sound of the rushing water. The tide struck the bank of the river and flowed toward the north. Sri Ramakrishna looked at it intently and exclaimed like a child, "Look at that boat. I wonder what is going to happen to it." The master and M. sat down for a while in the Panchavati. Sri Ramakrishna placing his umbrella on the cement platform. The conversation turned to Narayan. The boy was a student. Sri Ramakrishna looked upon him as Narayana, God himself, and was very fond of him. "Master, have you noticed Naren's nature? He can mix with all, old and young. One cannot do this without a special power. Besides, all love him. Is he really artless?" M. I think so. "Master, I understand that he goes to your place. Is that so?" M. Yes, sir. He has visited me once or twice. "Master, will you give him a rupee? Or shall I ask Kali about it?" M. Very well, sir. I shall give him the money. "Master, that's fine. It is good to help those who yearn for God. Thus one makes good use of one's money. What will you gain by spending everything on your family?" Kishori had several children. His salary was too small to support his family. Sri Ramakrishna said to M. Naren said he would get a job for Kishori. Please remind him of it. The master walked away in the direction of the pine grove. Returning to the Panchavati, he said to M. Please ask someone to spread a mat outside my room. I shall lie down a few minutes. I am coming presently. When the master returned to his room, he could not find his umbrella and exclaimed, "You have all forgotten the umbrella." The busybody doesn't see a thing even when it is very near him. A man went to a friend's house to light the charcoal for his smoke, though all the time he had a lighted lantern in his hand. Another man looked everywhere for his towel. Finally he discovered that it had been on his shoulder all the time. It was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The master ate the prasad from the Kali temple. Then he wanted to rest a while. But the devotees were still sitting in his room. They were asked to go out. And then the master lay down. He said to Baburam, "Come here. Sit near me." Baburam answered, "I am preparing betel leaf." The master said, "Put your betel leaf aside." The devotees sat under the bakul tree in the Panchavati. Tarak, who had just returned from Vrindavan, told them stories of his visit. A little later Sri Ramakrishna was seated again on his couch. The devotees sitting on the floor. Shyamdas was singing with his party. He sang of the Gopas' grief at their separation from Sri Krishna. Dry as a desert seemed the happy lake to them. The Chatak died of thirst. Gazing toward the clouds, the master became somewhat abstracted. But the musician could not create a spiritual atmosphere. Sri Ramakrishna asked Nabai of Kanagar to sing a kirtan. Nabai was Manamahan's uncle. He lived on the bank of the Ganges, devoting his time to prayer and meditation. and was a frequent visitor of Sri Ramakrishna at Dakshineswar.